You're listening to the Flourish Mindset, where we talk to entrepreneurs and discover their successes, their failures, and their secrets to winning at business. Hi, everyone, and welcome to the Flourish Mindset. Our guest today is Patrick Metzger. Patrick is an EOS Implementer and business coach, as well as the CEO and founder of The Greenhouse. As a business coach, Patrick focuses on helping people better their business, themselves, and living their ideal lives. Currently, Patrick is working with dozens of companies, both across the Midwest and nationally, to help them grow, whether they are a new company building the foundations of their business or a multi-million-dollar company that is looking at increasing efficiencies or just making an impact on the world. So welcome, Patrick.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me, Hannah.
I'm so excited to hear a little bit about your story, what brought you into the EOS world, and what is EOS, and where it's taken you.
Absolutely. Where do you want to start? Because it's been I've had an unorthodox journey. We'll just say that.
Sure. Well, you're not the first person I brought it up, but you're not the first person here who's mentioned EOS. So tell us a little bit about what that means.
Yeah. So EOS stands for Entrepreneurial Operating System. So I got into EOS just about 3 years ago. Actually, in the next couple of weeks here will be when I went to what they call boot camp in EOS, is where you go to the initial training, and there's a very strong continuing ed piece to the EOS being part of the EOS community. But yeah, it'll be just about 3 years ago that I really kind of started on that journey. But what EOS really is it's a operating system built for businesses that are anywhere from maybe 10 to multiple hundreds of employees, million in revenue plus.
Sure.
And it's industry agnostic, which is really cool. So within all the companies I work with, I have everything from realty, medical, construction, technology, you name it. So it doesn't matter as far as industry, but it's really for companies that are looking to grow, scale. I've worked with solopreneurs with the system, and I also have companies that have hundreds of employees. But what it's really, really good at, and what we really focus on, is getting everyone in an organization just aligned on to the same page with where we're at, where we're going, how are we going to do it, getting everyone really laser focused on what matters, where are issues, let's solve them for the greater good of the organization. And then there's a really strong team health component to it. So in implementing EOS with companies, I work primarily with their leadership team. And as everybody knows, everything in your organization streams down from your leadership team, whether it's your vision, communication, processes, you name it. So we start with just that leadership team and making sure that they're on the same page, they're focused, they know who we are, what we're about, what's important to us, where we're going, but then getting that team really, really healthy as far as high trust, high accountability, very highly committed to what we're trying to do as an organization, because then it will really stem down throughout the rest of your employee base.
Absolutely. I know for us, when we discovered the EOS system, it took us from a stagnant company to a company that brought in roughly $500,000 more in revenue the first year we implemented. And then after that, we were taking off, and then we added several other companies after that because we had the time and the energy to bring on new business because things were running more efficiently. So that's awesome.
Yeah, and that's a really big differentiator for EOS. Is it creates the opportunity for a business to become more scalable.
Yes.
Because so many businesses are not scalable, whether it's because of people issues, an owner that can't let go of the reins or let go of the vine, we always say within EOS, or because there's processes that are lacking, that aren't clarified or documented or whatever it may be. So one of EOS's really big strengths is just giving a business all the tools and pieces it needs in order to just scale out further, which is what 99% of business owners are really looking to do, but are not able to accomplish because they aren't able to work through their issues effectively.
well, a lot of times they're not even willing to admit that they have issues that they need to work through.
Absolutely. So. Yes. Owners in particular. Yes. Those big visionaries struggle with letting go and struggle for seeing things what they are. Because when you're buried in the system, you can't see it for what it is.
Well, and you've poured your heart and soul into it. So wanting to admit that there could be anything there is difficult. But when they identify, it's so important.
Absolutely.
So how did you end up being a certified EOS implementer?
So, going way back, I was originally a teacher for over 10 years, and I got into my 8th year of teaching and really started to question, was it still the right setting for me? I started to question, is it teaching I need to get out of, or is it just a different environment I need? And I really wasn't quite sure, but I could really just tell like I was being pulled to do something else, something bigger. Didn't really know what it was. I ended up changing schools, was there for a couple more years, and then it just hit me like a brick wall where I really came to the conclusion. It was at the end of September in my 11th year of teaching. I remember I came home, I told my wife, I said, I'm done. And she goes, what do you mean? I said, I'm done teaching. I made the decision up in my mind. I'm going to resign as soon as possible, and I'm going to go find what it is that I'm really meant to do. Okay. And so I was done at Thanksgiving, actually coming up in a few weeks here. As we're recording this, it will be 6 years since I left teaching. So that was kind of, I've always been a teacher, coach. That's what I do with EOS and through our whole greenhouse concept. So that hasn't changed. It's just the audience has changed,
More adults.
Yeah. Who act like kids.
I was going to say, we're practically children.
we all are to an extent. But yeah, it's funny because it's all the same concepts. And I tell all the businesses I work with that too. And even when we start companies on EOS, we talk about a parenting analogy. As a business owner, as a leader on a leadership team, you are a parent.
Yes.
To those employees that you have, because you have to hold them accountable, and you have to give them direction, and you have to give them rules to live by and work by. So it's really no different. But whether it's been a court, a field, a track, a classroom, now it's a conference room, it's the same stuff. You have to get people working together as a team. You have to have people that have a really strong plan for executing, and you need highly committed people that are going to follow through and get things done. So
absolutely, which would be typically the implementer, right?
Yes, yeah, exactly. So I taught for 11 years, and then I decided to leave teaching. Really didn't know what I wanted to do, so I walked into an executive recruiting office to talk with them about what I could do, what were some options, and ended up actually getting hired by that company. So did that for about 6 months, ended up managing a gym because I read the book Crush It by Gary Vee, which was really about your personal branding and building an online business, an online passion. And I have a really strong health wellness coaching background, so I had kind of started in my mind to put together the idea for a online health wellness coaching consulting company. And then had read that book, and that really made me leave recruiting to kind of take a stepping stone toward that by managing this gym. And then at about the 9-month mark of managing this gym, I got called into a fake meeting and basically got pressured to quit because the owner had gotten everything that they wanted out of in hiring me. So I had expanded the gym, brought on classes, instructors, all of this. And I'll never forget, it was a Monday morning, it was starting to blizzard, and he started saying, Patrick, things aren't working out how we thought they were, and I was baffled. And long story short, I thought to myself, I don't know if this is the right move, but I'm going to make him fire me right here. and it sounds funny saying that, but it was kind of one of those things where I told him, I said, I'm either going to go back to my office and continue to work, or you're going to let me go. What do you want to do here? Because he wanted me to quit because... Well,
then he wanted to pay severance or pay on...
Yeah, and then I would have owed him money back on my contract and stuff because I was 9 months in on a 1-year contract, and I knew that, so I wasn't going to quit. So that's why I told him. I said, do you want me to go back to my office, or do you want to fire me? What do you want to do here? And I had no idea if that was like a good decision or not, but it felt right, and I went with my gut. And he let me go on the spot, and that really threw me into the deep end of the pool, and it was sink or swim. So really got into my online business, which I had started a couple months before that. So really dove into that full time. Actually did a little bit of substitute teaching while I was building that thing up still. And then about 3 months later, ended up working with a business coach out of San Diego that completely changed things forever for me.
Okay.
His name was Peter Scott. He was a coach that specialized in online coaching platforms. And he called me out in about my second week of working with him. It was on a Zoom call. He looked right at me and he goes, Patrick, he goes, what are we doing here? And I said, what do you mean? Like, I got my stuff done. I'm ready to jam here. What are we going through today? And he goes, no. He goes, let's back up. He goes, I get it. He goes, you were a teacher. You were a coach. He goes, I can tell you're good at it. He goes, I'm going to tell you something. He goes, I don't have the opportunity to meet many people like you that have way more gas in the tank. He goes, you could take this, Patrick, so far beyond health, wellness. He goes, you need to be on a stage speaking. You need to be working with businesses. He goes, you have that kind of ability.
That's awesome.
And it was like the first time ever in my life somebody like pointed out every single thing I knew and felt about myself, but didn't know what to do about it.
Well, I think it's important. Someone needs to validate you sometimes. Like,
absolutely.
Hearing it in your head is one thing, but someone else seeing you and believing in you, like, that's so important.
Well, then you have that imposter syndrome too.
Right.
Like, you think it, but you're like, well, who am I to think that? Right. Or, does anybody else see that? Or am I crazy?
Just like a joke.
Yeah. So from there, we really started transitioning my business from health wellness to really like holistic life coaching. And then as I worked with higher and higher clientele, it turned into more one-on-one high performance coaching. And then from there, it was actually a CEO I was working with that introduced me to the book Traction.
Okay.
And I'm a high fact finder, ordered it because I was really intrigued when he was telling me about it. Ordered it, crushed that thing in a weekend, and fell in love right then and there. Because all these business owners and leaders I was working with, doing one-on-one stuff with, kept asking me for either, hey, do you know someone that does this? Or can you do this? Can you come in and help us do some communication stuff or leadership training or do some communication stuff or strategic planning or whatever it was. Right. And when I read the book Traction, I was sold because it takes everything for a business and bundles it into one system that functions really, really well together. So borrowed $30,000 against my house, flew to Denver, went to that boot camp, like I said, just about 3 years ago, coming up on here shortly, and never looked back. And fast forward to now, I work with dozens of companies across the nation implementing it and love it.
That's so amazing because it was just going from your passion to taking a huge risk and a huge leap to doing something so amazing and being so successful at what you are able to do. So that's awesome.
Yeah, I think I was actually talking with someone literally just this morning about that. I said, I think so many people are afraid to follow their passion and their gut and that itch that they have.
Right.
For something that they think they could do or really want to do. And I think a huge part of it is that fear of leaving that level of comfort that you have. And a lot of people, especially later in life, I think when they get that feeling, I'll be 40 in a couple of weeks here as we're recording this, but I think a lot of people get to a certain point in their life where they're not willing to go backward.
Right.
Where they have this feeling of, I don't love this anymore, or I don't enjoy this, or this isn't fulfilling. I want to do something else, but, I'm already at the top of this pay scale and, I already have this steady paycheck and this way of life that I'm comfortable. How can I go backward from there? Too many people aren't willing to do that. Yeah. And if you aren't willing to do that, you're going to be stuck status quo wherever you are forever.
Absolutely. I think about those little toy cars where you pull them back and it's actually you feel the tension and the traction as you're pulling it back. Yep. But when you let it go, it shoots off, right? It rockets off. But the car, before you're even pulling it back, you're stagnant. It's just sitting there. So, taking those steps back and going backwards in your life a little bit isn't really going backwards. It's setting yourself up for future and advancement and being able to shoot forward. So
Yeah, I think, I saw it all the time with people doing one-on-one coaching. They all had very, very similar struggles. A lot of it was around identity, honestly. And I think a lot of people are unwilling to say, this is who I've been forever, but I don't want that anymore. I want to change, but who am I to change? What will people think? I can't go backwards in making that change. It'd be too weird to change all of this now.
Right.
So they just live in that mediocre life for forever, whether it's their job, whether that's their relationships they have, whether it's their health. I mean, you name it. People don't like getting uncomfortable, and it's ultimately what's going to hold you back forever.
I get that. I mean, for me personally, I was in a certain position at in my old career, and for me to move into real estate, I had to take a step back financially. I went from running a department to being like the lowest person on the rung, and it was like terrifying. And it wasn't even just necessarily that personal feel, but like the pride. What are other people going to think of me? How is my spouse going to feel about me taking a pay cut? Like, are they financially able to support that kind of decision? Yep. And it like makes such a huge impact on other people's lives, or on what you feel like other people will perceive of your life.
Yeah.
That like, it's just like all these things that you have to take into consideration. But when you're following your passions and when you're actually doing something that you're happy about versus when you're miserable, like, the reward is just tenfold.
Yeah. I think a lot of people, miss out on that concept of, how would I best state it? Kind of lost my train of thought there. Sorry.
You're good.
I can't remember what I was going to say, but, it's definitely that unwillingness to step back. Oh, I remember what I was going to say. I think what a lot of people, where they struggle is, or what they don't realize, I guess I should say, what they don't realize is the great part about when you step back and start over somewhere else is you have all the knowledge, all the experience of what you've done now to that point. So I think people have that fear of, if I step back, like it's going to take me that long again to get where I want to.
Right.
But they don't realize, like, no, you're going to go at warp speed now because of the experience from your past when you step into that other avenue or that alternate lane and, start going in a different direction.
Absolutely. And it doesn't even matter if you're like even in the same like realm with like business wise.
No.
I went from car sales into real estate. Yes, it was technically the same sales type of industry, but they are very different and need to know so many different things. And now it's more of an entrepreneurial stance in the real estate world. Like, you just learn how to learn faster. You learn how to like pick up things faster, how to find like answers to your questions.
Yeah. And like you said, Hannah, when you find something that you really when you get into that lane that you really love, and you actually have a true passion for doing it, like, you'll do anything to be great at it. You go above and beyond in learning it and researching and figuring out how to be really, really good at it versus doing everything. How most people function is they do everything they can to avoid doing more of it because they don't enjoy it, especially like professionally.
Right.
I want to show up as late as I can to 8:00 and go home as early as possible if I can, because what I'm doing isn't fulfilling. It doesn't connect to a bigger why. I don't feel like anyone cares or listens to me, where I'm at. And that's sad that so many people live in that environment and just state of mind of mediocre. And it's disappointing.
Yeah. Actually, speaking of Gary Vee, I remember hearing something he said recently, which was, there's no such thing as laziness. There's a such thing as dislike. Yeah. And you're not lazy. You just really dislike whatever you're about to do. Because if you liked it, you wouldn't be lazy at doing it.
Exactly.
And I think about like working out and all the other things. Like, I'm just not a big fan of it. So I just make up all the excuses. But you just have to get past that.
Yeah. Yeah, I would 100% agree with that. It's, I love teaching. I really did. And I still teach and coach, like I said, to this day. I mean, just with adults and businesses and stuff. But it truly feels like now what I'm doing, I can't wait for Mondays to come. I mean, honestly. And I tell my wife over the weekend, like, I can't wait to get going at this. And I work over the weekends, of course, because when you're an entrepreneur, that's just what you do.
Right.
But like, I literally, like, when I'm getting to like Sunday afternoon, like, I can't wait to get back to the office and start working with more teams.
Yep.
Like the last couple days here, I've been working on writing copy and doing some things for our new website that will be coming out here at the end of November. And I get excited about that. Like, I really, really want to do it.
Sure.
But a lot of people live in that world of just, oh, do I have to? And they just wait for the weekend to come just to get away from something they don't love doing. And it's, and man, if you're in that situation, I really encourage you to think about what is it that you really want to do.
Right.
And a lot of people don't ever take the time to think of that.
No.
You know, you ask your average person, like, what are your big life goals? And they go, oh, what are you even talking about? You know, they've never put any true thought into, what do I really want out of this journey?
Right. Well, it's all about providing for your family or making money or whatever it is. So, that, it doesn't matter what I like or what I'm passionate about because that won't make me the type of money. In reality, I mean, that's what a lot of entrepreneurship is people finding things they're passionate about and finding a way to monetize it.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, I mean, like, you've worked with entrepreneurs at all levels and you've worked with businesses at all levels. Tell me a little bit more about some of the things that you're seeing, like maybe mistakes that new entrepreneurs or new businesses make that maybe we can avoid in the future. Yeah,
I actually had the opportunity to speak to a high school entrepreneurship group just a couple of weeks ago, and they had some really, really good questions. I was actually really, really impressed with some of the questions, but they had a similar one, like, us starting out as entrepreneurs, like, what's the number one thing that you would tell us to do or not do, kind of based on what you learned? And I said probably the top thing that really comes to my mind is, if I could really go back and do things all over again, I think the biggest lesson that I learned and still struggle with a little bit to this day is, don't try to learn and do everything yourself. You know, and it really kind of hit home in the last year for me when I read the book, Who, Not How, which is all about find the person that has done it, or the connection that can get you to the person that knows it, or the expert in it, or has done it, or is really good at it, instead of you going through the trials and tribulations of trying to do it on your own, or trying to figure it out, or, I think back when I started out, of how much stuff and how much time I spent going on Google and YouTube, and you get really good at a lot of stuff.
Right.
I mean, like, I can build funnels in ClickFunnels,
right.
and
Landing pages.
Oh yeah, I can do all that stuff. Probably not so well anymore, but man, if I could go back, I would have done everything I could have to borrowed money and hired those things to be done by experts that were really good at them. Right. Because at the end of the day, you're buying time. Everything is time or money.
Right.
So you can either spend a year or two trying to learn this stuff and do it on your own to save money, or find a way to get the resources to pay for somebody to do those things, because it will move you years ahead in literally a matter of weeks.
Well, that's the same thing about going backwards a little bit to go forwards, because
absolutely, yeah.
You spend the money, go backwards a little bit to find the person who's 10 times better than you, who makes it so you don't have to spend a year learning it.
Yeah.
It sets you way further ahead. You can pay off that little bit of money you borrowed, and you're 15 steps further ahead now.
Yeah, and when you start out, you have to be willing to live in that world of debt and stuff. That's just, it's like, welcome to entrepreneurship. I mean, and most people try to, I hate the term bootstrap. But everyone tries to bootstrap it on their own, and, I'm going to figure it out on my own and do it myself and all this. And it's like, no, that is not the right way. Find the people that are good at it, pay for them to do it. I always bring myself back to the story that Tony Robbins tells about the very first workshop he ever went to, where Jim Rohn was the speaker.
Okay.
And I can't remember how it all went, but basically the guy that told Tony he needed to go to this workshop said, Tony, if you could spend X amount of dollars to go see Jim Rohn, and Jim can share decades of experience with you and decades of learning of what to do and what not to do in a weekend. He goes, think of how fast that moves you ahead in time of knowing all of those things now.
Absolutely.
You paid X amount of dollars to basically time warp, through your life, years and years of trying to figure stuff out on your own. Right. So it really makes me as an entrepreneur, and even in the businesses I work with and stuff now, I'm constantly preaching this, like, who do you know that can do that? Or let's find somebody that can help you with this, instead of, well, I guess we'll just figure it out, or I guess we'll just do it. And it's like, no, that's not how it has to be. Right. But you have to be willing to go backward or make that investment, whether it's time, resources, money, whatever it is. You have to be willing to go backward for a while, but it's going to launch you so far forward into the future. It'll be well worth your time.
Absolutely. I would say that there's another part to that too, and that's being able and willing to delegate.
Oh, absolutely.
Because you can find a great person, but if you're not willing to actually let go of the reins or the vine to delegate it off to that person, and not micromanage it or whatever it is, like, you're wasting that time and energy. You're wasting the money that you just spent doing that because you're not giving them the opportunity to succeed for you.
Yeah, that's really tough. That's a huge struggle I see for business owners. It's a struggle for myself even. Because I'm no different. I'm a business owner that has a team. I'm trying to hand off all of my marketing stuff right now. It's hard to do when you've done it for so long and you know all the little ins and outs, but it's like you have to take the time to teach people and walk through how you think about things, how you look at them, how you approach them, not just the click this button and do this. You got to basically walk them through your mindset as you're doing some of these things. And that's where you have to have good quality people that you can trust. Right. And it obviously starts with that. You have to have very good people that you trust and have confidence in, but you have to be willing to take the time to teach them and be willing to hand it off to them.
I think that's where a lot of people do struggle with the delegation. There's two parts I think that are the biggest struggles. One is you say you're going to delegate it, you never actually let go. But then two is you let go way too quickly and you're like, read my mind and just figure it out on your own, and you don't take the time to communicate what you actually want to see the outcome to look like, or the pieces that are the most important to you. So like, I'm going to delegate this to you, but I need to make sure you hit here, here, and here, and then the outcome looks like this. Unless you truly don't care about any of it, then great, let it go. But you're not going to get exactly what you're thinking about.
Yeah, I speak with a lot of companies around that concept, especially with onboarding, because onboarding is such a struggle for so many companies. So I always drop on the board concept of gradual release technique, which is, as a teacher, what we constantly practice was I do, we do, you do. And you have to take people through those 3 steps in a very strategic manner of, I'm going to do it and you're going to watch. And you can ask questions, and then I'm going to slowly work you into the process where we're doing it together, and you're starting to take over more and more of it. And then slowly I'm going to work myself out of the process so that you can take it, and it's just you doing it. So it's I do, we do, you do. But I would say onboarding is such a struggle for so many companies, and just teaching new processes is so hard for so many people because they go straight from I do to you do.
Right.
There's no intermediate in there of asking questions and learning together and officially kind of, doing the actual teaching of it, because, people need to, you have so many different types of learners. You have visual and auditory and kinesthetic, and you have to account for so many things as you are delegating stuff off to someone else that a lot of people forget to think about in order to actually do it most effectively. Right.
Well, I think it's hard, though, because a lot of, especially newer companies, newer entrepreneurs, when they're hiring for these positions, they have never done it themselves either. Yeah. And they're saying, hey, here's something that I want. I don't know how to do it. I'm hiring you, hoping you know how to do it. And at some point, they don't even know what to expect for as an outcome. And so you either end up with a really great service and you hope that you hired the right person, or you end up with a mess that you have to now clean up and find someone to replace. And so it's really important to hire right, too, in those situations.
Yeah, I see a lot of businesses disappointed in vendors because of with that situation. And I think a lot of it comes down to the company itself doesn't have really strong clarity on end in mind. of like
Yes.
how we want this product to function, or what we want this to look like at the end of the day, or how we want it to work. So then they're bringing someone in, an outside resource or of some kind, and they aren't able to even clarify that. So it's like, if you don't have a clear vision of what you want, how in the world are you going to expect somebody to deliver on what you don't even know you want?
So communication.
Yeah. Yeah. Clarity is so big with everything that you're doing, from clarity around roles, responsibilities, to the big long-term vision of what you want or what your company wants. And a lot of people don't take the time to sit and think through that enough and put enough detail to it, and then especially communicate it clearly to others.
Good. Okay, so be comfortable with debt. Hire some good people. Be okay to step back a little bit. Are there any other things that like really people should know when they're starting a business, or mistakes that they should try to avoid when they're starting?
Man, I think find a really good mentor, a mentor, a coach, whoever it is and whatever you need, but don't try to do it on your own. Mm-hmm. And I am horribly guilty of this in the past, and I've gotten a lot better with it. But it's the African proverb, I think it is, that says, if you want to go fast, go by yourself, but if you want to go far, go with others. And there's no truer statement in business. Like, if you can hitch your wagon to those people that have done it, they've been there, they've seen it, and then also people with similar mindsets and the same drive and the same passion that you have, man, you are going to go far, and you're going to go fast too, because those people move pretty quickly. Yes. So find connect with the people that you need to connect with, that will show you the way, that will walk with you, and can share their journeys and experiences with you.
Absolutely. I mean, that's partly why I'm doing this podcast. Like, a big piece of this is a lot of people just don't have access to it, or they aren't aware of what to look for in surrounding themselves with those people. So one, I want to have this here for new entrepreneurs and leaders to really understand what that mindset looks like, and to learn the lessons that other entrepreneurs have already learned at so many different levels. And, Ashley was on my first podcast, and she talked about starting up her first company with $600. It was a cleaning company. She just bought the cleaning tools and then built it from there. And so it is possible to do bootstrap, but a lot of times that's not possible. It just depends on what you're looking for. But if they can learn from other entrepreneurs and learn from the mistakes that others have made, but then also start hearing what they need to be listening for with the people around them, and so that they can go into their own communities and start finding the right mindset people, finding the like-minded people that will help them go far, right? Instead of everyone feeling like they're on this little island until they realize what they're missing and what's going to get them where they want to go.
Yeah, I think, anybody can start a business. You look at how entrepreneurs start. They have a skill, they have a passion, and they start a business, and then they realize all the things that you don't know that you need to know when starting a business. And then you go on the great journey in search of figuring out all of that stuff. So, man, if you can save all that time and all that struggle by doing things correctly right out the gate, and you're able to do it many, many times faster, because I don't think many people start a business and just think, I just want it to be me forever.
Right.
People start a business because, you want to make more money, or you want to reach a certain level of whatever, or you want to add people, or you want to build a team, whatever it may be. But you have to find the people that will help you do that, and the resources that will help you do it faster. So if you can, there's so many awesome resources out there too, like podcasts. There's endless stuff on YouTube. There's a million influencers. Be careful who you follow, obviously. But there's so many awesome resources for people that they can tap into to help them on that journey.
Absolutely. So, we've talked a lot about like what newer people, maybe mistakes are made at the very beginning. Just from your insight, I'd love to know, what are some things that people maybe think like, I always think that when someone is making, multi-millions of dollars or billions of dollars in revenue, that their company's got to have it figured out, that they've got to have it made. Can you tell me a little bit of like what some of the mistakes are being made in like the higher level companies?
Man, if I could boil it down to a couple things, excuse me. Number one, you see a lot of ego, and ego holds people back so much, and that ego kind of plays into other things also, like unafraid to let go or unwilling to let go of things. Too proud to make certain decisions within a business. And ego obviously plays into that. Unwilling to delegate things because no one's going to do it better than them.
Right.
That's a huge one. There's always that challenge too of as a company grows and becomes more successful and it scales and expands, how do you keep the, I'm not a big fan of the word culture, but how do you keep like that fun culture that so many companies, that fun environment and feel that so many companies have when they are on that journey toward that?
Right.
That's a huge challenge for companies. I always say culture is the equivalent of clarity and communication that creates confidence in your people. So I think a lot of business owners struggle with, how do we create clarity around who we are and where we're going, and we keep that really personal touch with our employees and with our customers, and you're starting to get up into, we're starting to get up into the hundreds of employees in our business.
Right.
And it feels like, you hear the other C word, corporate. It's become corporate.
Right. The personal feel's gone. The family feel is gone.
Yes. Yeah. It doesn't feel like a family anymore. We don't do the fun things we used to do, and you hear all that kind of stuff.
Well, it's really hard to take everyone out to lunch when you have 100 employees.
Yeah.
Restaurants don't like it.
Yeah. I mean, I'm a huge fan of, I can't remember who said it. Is it John Maxwell? Or I think it was John Maxwell that said, great leaders don't lead organizations. Great leaders lead the leaders that lead the organization.
Right.
Leadership has to be scalable.
Yes.
And a lot of leaders don't do that, and they really struggle with that. They think like, oh, I'm the leader, I'm leading this No. You have to be really good at creating really good leaders when you get to that point. So I think that's a struggle for companies in that later stage. I see a lot of issues and struggles too around exit succession stuff. Owners, CEOs that can't pull themselves out of the business, and they keep muddling and they keep sticking their finger in here and there, and they just cause a ruckus within businesses.
Right. Because
they can't technically just cut the cord and be done. They're still end running people, going around, somebody else that's, at the head of an organization, and they just cause issues like that.
Yeah.
So that's a big challenge too.
I've actually seen where they're so terrified that no one will realize how good they were, that they start to make things very secretive so that when they leave, everything falls apart. So then it looks like it was them as a great leader that led to it being good. And
I believe it.
But the true good leader is when you are able to step away, everyone else can step in, and you're not even missed in a sense of like leadership, because you've built up so much trust and respect in the new leaders that are stepping in that they can just take over seamlessly, right?
Yeah.
And or make it better.
Yeah. In great companies, what you should see is the leaders underneath that main core leader that is maybe stepping out or is going to step out. But in that team of leaders, they're getting the same feel from that top individual that they once did.
Yes.
And that's truly where leadership is, where you have that scalable feeling of leadership where, whatever his or her name that once ran this company is no longer here, or their time is very, very limited within the organization now, but people feel like things haven't changed. I mean, that's ultimately where you want to get it to.
That's awesome. Awesome. Well, I know you talked about Gary Vee with Crush It.
Yep.
And Who, Not, What? Who wrote that?
Who, Not, How. I can picture it. It's a yellow book with blue text. I can't remember the author of that one.
We'll add it in later.
Yep.
And Traction, obviously, with Gina Wickman.
Yep.
I personally love Rocket Fuel. I mean, Traction's a good foundation, but Rocket Fuel really changed the way we did business just because the understanding of the visionary and the integrator, and I don't have to do everything, and the visionary doesn't have to figure out how to do everything, and partnership is so important.
Yep.
Any other important books that our listeners should read or listen to?
Yeah, two that I always recommend. One is personal and professional, but that's The Obstacle is the Way by Ryan Holiday. Okay. That is one of my all-time favorite books. It's about finding the silver lining in life's most difficult situations. So it's good. It's a really, really good personal read. It's also very, very good in business because there's always the next struggle. There's always the next issue. There's always the next big challenge on the roller coaster. And then the other one, probably professional and personal, is 15 Invaluable Laws of Growth by John Maxwell. So he breaks down these 15 different categories of opportunities for growth in your life. And it's applicable, across the board, relationships, business, personal, everything. But those are probably two of the most impactful reads that have really hit home for me kind of on this whole journey.
That's awesome. John Maxwell has written so many classic books and invaluable books for me in particular, like the 360 Leader and the 27 Irrefutable Laws of Leadership. Yep. But no, I love those books. We'll make sure we tag them in there. Any technology tools that you like to have in business that you think are really important that new entrepreneurs or even people set in business and leadership should have? Yeah.
That's a really good question because, the tools are endless nowadays, especially. There's so many different softwares and all kinds of things you can tap into. Everything's moving toward AI type stuff or automation of some kind. One that we found that we really, really like is called Connected with a K. So KENNECTED. But that is it automates your activity on LinkedIn.
Okay.
And as hopefully people know, your network is everything.
Absolutely.
The people it's all about who you know, like they say. But Connected has been awesome for us because it automates a lot of relationship building, messaging, offers that we send out, updates on things that we have going on.
I didn't even know it was a thing to automate that stuff. So.
Oh yeah, every day we're connecting with dozens and dozens of new people on LinkedIn. There's messages getting shot back and forth. We can automate responses. All kinds of things on there. There's a ton of functionality on it, but we've paid for that thing over so many times over since we started it. Probably not quite a year ago.
Wow.
But it's really helped just build a really good, robust network. Anytime we're doing events or anything, or I'm going somewhere to speak, we just set up an automation series for that geographical area. And we start making dozens and hundreds of connections in that area, and we start messaging, and we aren't touching it.
That's awesome.
It just does it automatically. So that's probably one of the coolest ones that we're using right now. That's really helped.
Great. So if anyone wants to hear you speak or anything that you've put out, is there somewhere that they can go to see that or listen to it?
Yeah, right now our current website is just patrick-metzger.com. That's going to start forwarding here, though, by probably about Thanksgiving, depending on when you're listening to this. But yeah, about Thanksgiving, our brand new website, growing4success.com. That's a number 4 in there, so growing4success.com. That should be up and going. So we're super, super excited about that. It's really, we kind of have really 3 legs to the stool of our greenhouse business. So EOS is kind of one big leg of the stool. Then our second is a team of national strategic advisors in all these different business areas so that we can fill in all the gaps and cracks for the things that we don't offer and provide resources for businesses that we're working with. And then third item is a software that we invested in back this spring, and we've done a ton of training and certification on now. called Value Builder.
Okay.
So that focuses on exit succession planning for business owners.
That's great.
So whether you are close to exit succession, whether you see it maybe only a few years down the road, or maybe it's not for 10 or 20 years, this software takes owners through a dozen modules that really focus on the key drivers of their business to up the value of their business. So it really makes an owner look at, things like how dependent is the business on me as an owner? Our client base, how spread out is that? Or do we have, way too many eggs in one basket? So it takes the owner through all these different drivers, and we can do, a business owner could do it themselves for fairly cheap. They could do a group coaching format with us, or they could do one-on-one coaching with us to take them through kind of this whole platform. But so we're really trying to cover that whole continuum of everybody from a solopreneur looking for how do we start, where do we start, what do we do, all the way through someone exiting their business.
That's awesome. That's going to be really valuable, I think, as we're having a whole generation change here too, in particular.
Yeah.
So, okay, great. And if anyone wants to reach out to you or contact you, is there a way that they can do that?
Yeah, best is probably my email, which is my first name, Patrick, at patrick-metzger.com. Or you can hit me up on my phone. Text me, call me, 701-412-1710. So,
yeah, all kinds of calls now.
Yeah. I'm an open book. I'm black and white. So, yeah, I love to chat, though, with people that are driven, motivated, have questions, but want to accomplish some big things.
I love it. Well, thank you so much for being here today, Patrick.
Yes, thank you,
I really
Hannah.
appreciate it, and I love the insight. Make sure you guys reach out to Patrick if you are looking at growing your business, creating those foundations, or if you are looking at just building efficiencies or culture or any of the important pieces that come in between, because without a good foundation and without those good, big, beneficial pieces, your business is not going to rocket forward, as they would say in traction. Thanks so much, and have a great day. You've been listening to the Flourish Mindset. Don't forget to subscribe and follow so you don't miss a single episode.